I'm going to tell you how I racked up $120,000 in credit card debt by the time I was 35, and I didn't even realize that I did it until after it was already done. That's nice. So I was working for this medical office for 18 years and I was making $25 an hour. I had accrued like 6 weeks of PTO. I had vacation time, personal time, sick days. I also had weekends off. I had holidays off. They were very flexible. I was making $25 an hour. I just felt like I was kind of doing pretty good for myself. I hadn't finished college, so I just felt like this was like the next best thing for me. And it worked perfectly because then, once I became a mom, I just felt like the flexibility was just like perfect. So even though I was making $25 an hour, eventually at a certain point, I got to that point, because of all the deductions, like insurance, and whatever other deductions that were there, I ended up just taking home like $36,000 a year. So it wasn't that good, but it got even worse when I went from a 2-income household down to a 1-income household. So that was when I started to use my credit cards to use it as a supplement income. And I didn't think that there was anything wrong at the moment, because I just figured, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna somewhere, like once everything settles, once I figure everything out, I'll figure things out on that later on. But then that didn't happen because then my hours got cut at work. And I think like my mentality kind of shifted because I just felt like undeserving of the particular situation that I was in. So I felt like, things shouldn't change, and I continued, I wasn't just using my credit card for emergencies. I was using my credit card for utility bills, for gas, for car insurance, for sports, for clothes, for getting my hair colored. And then ultimately one of like the bigger expenses at that time was a vacation. I hadn't taken a vacation in such a long time. And then I found myself in, a challenging situation and I just felt undeserving. So I was like, you know what? If I didn't take a vacation before when I was in a 2-income household, now is the time when I'm in a 1-income household using credit cards as supplement income, because I felt like I didn't deserve to be in the situation that I was in. And I needed to have myself a little enjoyment. The wrong time to go on vacation, really, it was. So I think that I kind of messed myself financially, kind of went into dangerous waters, because I was like, well, it's not like I'm buying luxury brand cars or purses or anything. It was just I was just kind of keeping everything the same lifestyle, right? And so even though maybe the vacation was something new, because, for some time, previously when we were in a 2-income household, before I became a single mom, we were paying off some stuff. So I had made the conscious decision that I was I don't think that we should necessarily go on vacation, because I was let's just pay off whatever we owe. And so then I think I just felt kind of emotional, that whole time I never went on vacation, and it's just I was when am I ever going to enjoy, And so I think that that emotional mindset switch where previously, I was more of a, let's get things paid off. Let's, let's budget, let's be, financially conscious with our, expenses. Then I went to, I don't deserve the situation. I think that I should, I deserve to, continue to be, or to at least, have the lifestyle that we had, even though it wasn't a lavish one. So I think that that's why that was dangerous, because I kind of justified it, because I was well, then, this is justified. I'm just keeping the same lifestyle, and it's not fair what's going on. So that's why I'm using my credit card. It's not that I'm buying luxury items and cars or anything. So this is okay for me to do. So to make things worse, I ended up losing my job. It was the year after COVID. So then I went on unemployment, and then after unemployment, I was like, okay, what do I do with my life? And I decided to start a business, because I wanted my business to take off. And I'm not really I wasn't really a content creator at that time. I wasn't about going in front of the camera and just trying to promote my business. I decided to hire an ads agency so they could just run ads. And I ended up getting into a $17,000 debt with that, so then, but I didn't say this before, but I had originally started off as a single mom already with debt, because the credit card, it was under my name, the credit card that we had in debt. And so I just felt like, I don't know, like I just felt like too much was going on. I would figure that one out later. So I already started off in debt and then using it as a supplement income, going on vacation, and then, trying to start a business, buying. That was another thing. I felt like I needed to just buy everything so I can be like these other, business owners that had XYZ. So I needed to have that too. And so then I was buying equipment and props and, figuring like instead of me just, dancing in front of the camera to promote my business, I would just hire somebody. And they ended up, I don't know, I almost want to say that like, I don't know if I want to say they ripped me off, but I think I could have done the same with much less expenses. So anyhow, so I had hired an ads agency and I ended up spending, like I said, $17,000. So that was not fun. So fast forward to when I had ended up, I was already at like $120,000 in credit card debt. And I think that it didn't smack me in the face until I actually got a notification. So what I had been doing was I had been transferring all my debts from credit card to credit card for like 0%, like trying to take advantage of the 0%. And that was something that I had learned in college and just always figuring like, yeah, like I'll just pay like after I graduate type of mentality. And so like, I think what happened was that like I got to a point where my debt was so big because every time like I had several credit cards with credit card debt in it. And so I kept, asking for like extended credit limits and they kept giving it to me. And they kept using them up, but then it got to a point where like all these credit cards, they were like going, like the 0% was going to expire. And because the credit limit had grown so much, like there was not another credit card that I could open that would be able to like do the transfer. So like, for example, like I had one credit card that had like $50,000 in credit card debt. And like the new credit cards that I was opening up with the 0% was like $2,000 or $3,000. So there was no way for me to transfer that debt into the new one. So then I realized, I think I got to a point where like my credit card debt was too big. And I think like credit card companies just weren't allowing me to do the transfers or giving me enough credit to do the transfers. So that's when I got like this notification from one of the banks from like one of my bigger credit cards. Like I said, like the $50,000 one, I believe it was. And so I had been paying like $500 a month because there was like no interest rate on it. So like my minimum payment was like $500 a month. And then I got a notification that it would go up from $500 to $1,500. And that's when I freak out. That's when I was crying. I lost it. Like I was like, OMG, like what situation am I in right now? And so the thing is that I had multiple credit cards, but that one was one of the bigger ones. And I just cried, like not like a pretty cry. Like it was like a full breakdown, like nervous breakdown and all. Like I was terribly upset at that moment because I was like, what am I going to do? So I think that like at that moment, because I had built this character of like, I'm strong, I can do this on my own, I will figure things out, like everything is fine, everything is continuing the same, like, I just didn't want the world to know that I was struggling. I didn't want to ask for help. So I was like, I guess I had built up like this strong persona, like this character, that like to the world, I was like this strong person that I was just getting by. And once that happened, like I'm actually happy in a way, I guess I would say that situation happened because I think that humbled me. That brought me down real quick. So it was like, yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, Michelle, that's not the reality and you actually need help. So, you can't use your credit cards as a supplement anymore because at that moment I had no more credit limit and no more credit card companies were like giving me credit. So then I was like, yeah, so you can't use your credit cards as a supplement income anymore. You actually do need help. You can't do this on your own. It's okay to ask for help. And yeah, this whole image you created all these years, yeah, that's not real. So let's keep it real from now on. So here is what I learned about that problem. Like the debt wasn't the problem. I think my mindset was the problem. My mindset, not that I think I know for a fact, that was my problem. And it was what I was telling myself, what I was trying to convince myself about money. That was the problem. The part that I didn't want to admit that I was struggling, that I needed help, that was the problem. The part when I told myself that I deserved certain things because I was going through, a difficult time, that was the problem. The problem was me telling myself that I deserved things just because I was going through a particular situation. That was the problem. The problem was me trying to keep an appearance and trying to convince myself, or trying to convince the world, or probably myself really, that I didn't, that everything was fine and everything is the same. Yeah, that was the problem. So it's not the credit card company's fault. It's not the interest rate's fault. It's my mentality. It was my mentality and how I was seeing the situation. So the moment that I decided to become honest with myself and hold myself accountable and said, you know what, this is nobody else's fault but yours. That's when I felt like things started to change. Like when I finally did the mindset shift from like trying to hide from my problems or trying to cover them up and then actually facing them, that was what helped me finally. And it honestly was the most valuable financial move that I could have made for myself. And it didn't cost me money. It cost me my pride, which I could afford to lose that one. So if you're going through anything similar to what I went through, you're not alone. There's a lot of people, a lot of us that are doing, the same thing, and it's not late. You can definitely, you can switch things up. And the first step is not a budget. It's not a debt payoff plan. It's just looking at yourself in the mirror and just being honest with yourself. That's the first most important step that you need to do. Because in all honesty, you can't fix what you're not willing to face. If this resonated with you, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.